Yes.
Let's do that.
All right.
And just in case, Deepa, can you also continually let anyone in that comes in a little bit after?
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll make sure that.
Thank
Hello,
you.
everyone.
Hi, welcome all. Thanks for coming.
Oh, hi, I just want to give you a quick update. Discord will be going through our IterateUX server Discord. We'll be going through changes over this weekend. So hopefully we get like a little cleaner interface so we won't be too busy navigating around.
Awesome.
And yeah, and I will also hopefully, if there's possible time, provide a YouTube video on the tutorial of the new Discord experience.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I am aware that there are some updates, so I'm excited that we're also getting that into IterateUX and, just be able to play with different things and streamline some things. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's like a comfortable and joyful experience for all of you.
Yes.
Yes. Sounds great. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. Happy Friday.
Finally, Friday.
Yeah. So I'll just wait a couple more minutes for people to continually trickle in.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hello.
welcome.
Hello.
Oh, and Sabian, thank you for correcting me on the Discord event Zoom.
Oh yeah, there was a link. I clicked it just to test it out before I joined. It didn't work. And then that's what I was just letting you know.
Well, I'm happy that everything's going smooth here. And yeah, thank you, because those checks are important, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to join the event if you can't join the event, right?
Yeah. For sure. For sure. I guess to help kind of kick things off, we can start with a little icebreaker or intro question. Why don't we all share, like, what is your favorite season and why in the chat? Favorite season. I feel like we're heading towards Christmas, so we might get a lot of winter and Christmases. I will start by saying that my favorite is fall. I love Halloween and just like the fall weather. So that is most definitely my favorite, but I would love to hear what everyone's favorite is.
So for me, it's definitely I will be witnessing snowfall like within couple of weeks, I guess. So it's always been like I always had a kind of what do you mean, a stuff for snow, like how the snowfall would be, how the winter season would be. So I think, but for now it's spring. Yeah, I just love spring. Yeah.
I feel that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like fall because I was born in fall, so I'm biased.
Oh, maybe that's hilarious. Maybe that's a part of the puzzle for me too. I'm also born in fall, so that might be a thing.
I'm from Arizona and USA, so I definitely enjoy fall and winter because of nice cooler weather. And we don't, in Arizona, as it's a desert, there's no experience of the fall colors or the leaves like New York and not rest of East Coast experience.
Yep.
But I definitely will say I do not enjoy the summer.
Yeah, I feel that. I guess what was kind of funny about me is I'd much rather be hot than cold. But fall's just where it's at for me.
Well, you're welcome to move to Phoenix if you like and experience the summer.
The full experience.
As far as I know, Vancouver people just love summer. So, yeah.
It's better than all the rain all the other times.
See? Yeah.
I feel that. Cool. So I think we are 5 minutes in. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of start us off here. So first, just thank you for spending a piece of your Friday with us. Welcome. So as more people are like entering too, I just want to remind that these sessions are recorded and you can find them on our YouTube channel. So feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Feel free to follow us on LinkedIn too for more information on sessions like this from IterateUX. And also as a reminder to just post your questions in the chat while the presentation is occurring. We will have a sort of midpoint to answer questions from the beginning of the presentation, and then we'll do a final Q&A at the end. Also, just remember to just like really listen to what we are learning today and ask questions. This is an excellent opportunity to have some really niche questions answered and get some advice from an amazing, wonderful, super professional designer that we have with us today. So definitely take advantage of that. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining today's IterateUX virtual meetup. We're excited to have everyone here. Understand that just mics will be muted during the presentation with Robin, but we will have that midpoint for any Q&As in the middle, but also at the end. If you allow me to introduce us here. So IterateUX is an open community with the goal of helping UXers learn, connect, and grow their careers. People of all experiences are welcome, so it's not limited to just designers, and anyone that is interested in anything about the world of UX is welcome. We also offer a couple of different things in our community. We offer sessions and events like workshops, mock interviews, resumes, and portfolio reviews, as well as coffee chats and live events like the one we're having tonight. We also offer design challenges and mentorship, so all kinds of options to help you build your career in all aspects of UX. If you like what we do here, you can go ahead and join our Discord or follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube. You can also check out the links being dropped in the chat for all of those links. And if you'd like, you can also support us by going to our merch store. If merch is something that you enjoy, IterateUX has them. And you can also support us on Ko-fi if that's what you are comfortable with. Our host for today's events is myself. I am Alicia. I'm a designer in New York City with a specialty in UX research. Our host or co-host here is Deepa.
Yeah. Hello there. I'm your co-host, Deepa. I'm a product designer based in Vancouver, and I'm super happy to be here and really excited for today's event. And I have no doubt it's going to be super insightful for everyone, for sure. Over to you, Alicia.
Cool. Yeah, very excited. And thank you for that awesome intro, Deepa. So give me a second. Okay, so from the teams here at IterateUX, Robin, thank you so much for taking the time and the knowledge to share with us. We appreciate it, and we're excited to have you presenting for us tonight. So Robin is going to be presenting for us tonight about designing at a large company in a guide to product launches and collaborating with teams. As a reminder, please unmute yourself if you have something to say. Put all your questions in the chat. We will be holding a sort of midpoint for questions from the first half of the presentation and another Q&A at the end of the presentation. So drop whatever questions you might have so we can start some great conversations about collaborations and teams with Robin. And join our Discord if you haven't yet. We have a ton of great discussions about everything UX there. This will also be recorded, and you can check us out on YouTube for this presentation as well as other presentations. Robin, I will pass it to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, everyone, for joining. So happy to be here. Just I'm going to share my screen and we're going to start. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep, that's great.
Awesome. So thanks again for joining. I'm here to talk about enterprise UX. Discover all about enterprise UX. I have noticed that it's starting to become a little bit more of a trend than working in the startup world. And it's an interesting and different way of approaching UX versus when you're in a more smaller company. So a little bit about me. You guys get my avatar because, you know, avatars are cool right now. I work at LexisNexis. I have a background in healthcare, social media. I am obsessed with matcha, so if you just want to be besties, you can just send me matcha and instantaneously. I am obsessed with AI. I'm going to reveal my age a little bit because my favorite is Clippy. Clippy for Microsoft. I don't know if anyone remember him from back in the day. And I always tell everyone my ADHD is my superpower. So no shame if anyone else is here with that. So let's dig into what is enterprise UX. So enterprise UX, when you're working in an enterprise, you are not essentially designing for the general consumer or the general customer. You're more designing for employees. Those are usually your end users. Now, a few things I wanted to highlight is that most jobs now need software to complete their tasks. It's how they streamline their process. Enterprise, UX, we focus on helping people complete their workflow. And when you think about enterprises, focus more on like legal, healthcare, banking, government, education. I'm currently focused on legal, which is lawyers. So I have to think about all the lawyers globally. So we focus on them to complete their daily tasks. And think about when you have a bank and they need to use software to complete a task. You're calling them and they just need to look up something. They need software for that. So as we're designing, we have to always keep in mind that user. So there are some challenges when it comes to designing an enterprise. The number one thing that's very different from more smaller to medium company, it's very slow. It's very slow, it's buggy. You're going to be dealing with a lot of legacy code, a lot of tech debt. The product I work on is my PM likes to say it's old enough to drink. It's been around for a while. So when you're in these types of environment, you have to focus on the complexity of the workflow. You have to think about the users that are using it. They're usually data driven and very much in a heavy environment with their process. You also want to think about, as a designer, you're going to be working in constraints. I know we like to kind of break out constraints and be a little bit creative, but you also have to get to know the back end of your product or the back end of the feature that you are working on in the enterprise. You are usually one of 10,000, 20,000, if not 50,000 employees. So you're this one little bee in a big hive of a company, and you have to think in a scalable way, not just in a more focus driven way. So with startups, it's a little bit easier to make impact and quicker, whereas enterprises, it's not. And another thing to think about when you are designing is that your users don't usually get to choose this software. It's usually forced upon them, I should say. I don't know if everyone has worked. I'm pretty sure everyone has had employment somewhere. But think about when you clock in and out. You don't get to choose that software. You have to use it. You always have to think about that when you're designing and as you're going into any kind of project, any kind of product, any kind of launch that's coming up or release. You also have to think about here when I highlight, they rely on permission roles and customized features. What do I mean by that? Is that think about the general public or the general consumer. they usually can just buy something and use it. Whereas when enterprise UX, they can't just use it without getting permissions from someone else, or maybe their role is limited. So that means that security is usually pretty high, depending on the product and depending on the feature. They can't just hop in and just use it whenever they want. Sometimes they have to get those permissions. Another thing to highlight is that you need to think about the various points of entry. When you're designing, me personally, I try to focus on how can they complete their task without it being too complex. I'll get into that a little bit later, but there are some challenges with that where sometimes you want to just keep it simple, but I'm going to talk about why you shouldn't keep it simple a little bit later on. It's a kind of a big no not to do an enterprise UX. So remember I said like these are the don'ts. You just don't do this. I like to say, don't come and try to be the hero. And this is what I mean. A lot of people will come into an enterprise and think, I'm going to change everything and I can just be able to change how they do it. And this is how it's going to be. I can't wait, and make huge splashes. And my PM like to say, bless your heart a lot. and it won't happen. You're dealing with something that's usually older and kind of set in its ways, I should say. And you have to be able to be scalable, adaptable, and agile when you're in this kind of environment. Oversimplification is a big no. And the reasons why, when you oversimplify something, you could potentially make your users a little scared of using it. And what I mean by that is they're unsure, is this secure enough? If I click here, why does it just say this one little word? I want some kind of context to it. And I know when you focus on startups, sometimes you want to just simple is better. It's streamlined. Oh, they'll understand it. Don't assume that when it comes to enterprise UX. You can't just say, oh, they can understand it. Don't assume anything, especially with our end users. They are a little I wouldn't say sticky, but they're picky. And don't try to make it complex. If you make it too complex for someone to complete their workflow, remember your end users are employees. If you're doing a job and it takes longer to do, you're going to end up causing someone to not be able to complete a task, and also costing the company money. Depending on what the product is, you could eventually get that product taken away from that company. And what I mean is that they just don't want to use it no more because it's just too complex. It's too hard to use. And sometimes it is a little hard to do, especially when you're dealing with workflows or user journeys that can have 50 to 100 screens, but you're trying to figure out how to minimize it, how to simplify it. Yeah, accessibility is your bestie. Everyone is different. We all have our we all are different in a way. So when you try to just design for a certain demographic, you kind of isolate another. And I know accessibility is important, but sometimes when you're designing, you might just get a little siloed and you're not focusing on accessibility. So it's always good to keep that in mind. And when you are going through the final designs, the final solutions, the final iterations, working with your development team, it's important to make sure that it is accessible. Someone that's colorblind can see it. Because, for example, if in my company, I work in legal tech, if I design something and the lawyer has to use it, he can't see it if he's colorblind, and then it becomes a big deal. And then customer service get a call. Then we have to send out a hotfix. And it's the little things that cost both companies money that if we just take it in consideration when we're doing it, then you don't have to worry about it. So everything's not bad. There's some good to UX and enterprise. We can help organizations save a lot of money if we can help satisfy their employees, streamline their process, and help to support costs, decrease the errors. I'm telling you, saving money, all companies love. Your designs can, when I say make a global impact, you'd be surprised of how many people use this software. You think that just making one little small iteration, it won't make too much of an impact. No one's going to notice. Trust me, someone from 1,000 miles or 20,000 miles away around the world will understand and notice. They'll finally say, oh, this person really thought about me in their design. Finally, an update that relates to me. So don't think that enterprise UX is all bad. It is some good. And cross-platform consistency is cool. Most enterprises have multiple products. So think about when you are designing, you want to make sure all those products align. So this is where you want to make sure that you are collaborating. I'm going to get a little bit more into collaboration after this, but you want to make sure you're aligned with everyone and make sure that everyone also is in sync with you. And that's across teams. When I'm talking about product, sales, marketing, development, other designers, QA, tech leads, engineers, so many people. So this is one of the good things about enterprise UX. So I'm going to stop here and take some questions. Alicia?
Yeah, Deepa, do we have any questions so far?
No, we don't have any questions so far. Yeah.
I have one, not for nothing. If it's all right, one of the things that you kind of pointed out that makes a lot of sense, but I have never directly thought about, you mentioned that with enterprise apps, users don't choose what they use, like you said, right? That makes a lot of sense. But does this cause any sort of differences in the design process versus designing for apps where users are directly choosing to use an app? Like, does that change your design process in any way?
It changes it in the way that I have to have more empathy and sympathy for the end user. I know they don't have a choice, so they have to just use what's given to them. I don't want to turn around and just like, oh, there, use it, and it's too bad it works. I try to think about what I can do to make their lives better, to streamline their process, and to get their work and their tasks done.
Okay.
So that's how I think about it.
Okay, so more sympathy for the end user as they are not choosing to utilize that product.
Yes. You kind of think about it. When you were in school, you had to use this textbook. You didn't have a choice. This was the textbook assigned. And did you really like it? No, but you read through it, and hopefully the author probably wasn't really thinking about this, but they probably made it simple or easier for you to understand the context of it.
Right. Sabian, I see your hand up. You're free to unmute yourself.
Sure. Thank you. Robin? Yeah. I want to ask, how do you, or do you have any, how do you resolve the differences of opinion between what the employees would have for better workflow versus the decision makers who would approve the changes you would make?
So I was actually going to get into that in collaboration. So yeah, when we think about the differences when it comes to the workflow, it's all a balancing act. It really is. I wish I can say I have a little bit more impact, but I don't. So it's about how user research is essential in enterprise. And it's about also making sure that you have empathy for both. So it's a really big balancing act, but I'm going to get into that a little bit right after your question.
Do you have
Alright.
any lingering questions? Going once, going twice. Back to you, Robin.
All right. So hopefully the dancing gift put everyone in a good mood on Friday. Key considerations for a successful enterprise UX is contextual design, information architecture, and then again, accessibility and inclusivity. So you need to be able to understand the user goals, needs, the work environment, and be able to not just tailor, but make it scalable. You have to always think about the future because eventually we'll be revisit. It will be a few years before they do revisit it. That's kind of the reality. And enterprise, because again, we move a lot slower than most companies do. So you have to always have these key points in your head when you are designing. Information architecture is really important. It's a skill that I think is essential when you are designing. You're going to get so much data. The amount of data I receive or have to sift through when I work with the UXR team, it's a lot. And you have to have that skill of taking a lot of data, simplifying it, and creating a design. You have to be able to do that in a certain pace because yes, we do move slow, but certain roadmaps sometimes move a little bit faster than others. And again, you got to think about the accessibility and inclusivity. You want to make sure everyone can use your product and use, excuse me, and use whatever feature you are working on without any kind of issues or hindrance. You got to think if you do not take that seriously, you are isolating a demographic group and therefore you lose revenue. Revenue is important. So I always try to fight for accessibility wherever I go, wherever company I am, because I said, hey, if you don't think about it, you could potentially lose money because that's a strong demographic within your target audience that may not use your software. So these are some examples of effective enterprise UX. So dashboards, I'm pretty sure everyone knows that dashboards are very trendy, it's very popular. So many people want to use it, and it's something that is intuitive and customizable. And it's something that a lot of enterprise software do utilize. Now, another one is integration platforms. That these two are probably the most popular right now I'm seeing with not just startups, but other enterprises trying to adapt more of these concepts into their products and their features. I do see that that's kind of the trend for the last year or two. And collaboration software, something like we're using right now, Zoom, or Slack, or Microsoft Teams. So those are the types of effective enterprise UX that I wanted to show some examples of, because sometimes some people don't understand the differences of enterprise UX and where that target audience do go. So collaboration and enterprise UX, we all have to get along in some way, shape, or form. And you need to have effective communication. That is the _1 skill that you need. I tell people all the time when I get reached out a lot, oh, how many designs you get to do, or how long you're in Figma. I'm in Figma maybe 20% of my day, if not week. Half the time I am in meetings, I am effectively communicating between product team, other designers, development. I'm working between a lot of people. And at an enterprise, you're going to deal with a lot more people than a smaller to medium company. I have 2 roadmaps, a third one I assist with, if not a fourth, potentially. And there is a whole team of developers on each one, and product and agile leads, tech leads, QA. That's a lot of people. And I have to effectively be able to adapt to their personality, understand how to talk to them. So my number one thing I do wherever I go is that I take the relationship approach. You have to build relationships with everyone. There will be language barriers, there will be cultural differences. With development, it's really essential that you're on that same page with them. If you are not on the same page with your development team, it could lead to something, yeah, disaster. I'm trying not to say it could lead to disaster. So you want to make sure that you're in sync with them. And that's why I say be besties with your development team. Don't have to be actual besties, but at least be able to be effective with them and understand, because you're going to get developers that don't really want to work with designers, and you're going to get developers that really love to work with designers. And that's everywhere, whether it's startups or enterprise, but it's really essential in an enterprise environment that you really do become in sync with your developers. You need to understand cross dependencies when it comes to multiple products and sometimes multiple features. That means multiple roadmaps. You need to make sure that what you're doing is not going to break something someone else is doing. It has happened so many times. I have seen it happen since the start of my career, where a developer would go in and they're like, oops, I thought no one was in this area. So it's very good to have that communication open, where you, not just you, but the other developers on another roadmap will understand what another roadmap is doing. Oh, okay, they're going to be in the same area. Let's collaborate. Let's come together. You want to make sure that you are really good at making sure that's effective and making sure that you are taking the time to understand what everyone else is doing. You don't want to get into a silo, because that can actually hurt you and your team and your product and your feature than to help you. So another thing is build relationships across different teams. You are usually put and assigned with one team. You want to build relationships with other teams, because you just never know when you might need to reach out. Some people have expertise in different areas that you might not know much about. You may just start at a company, or you could have been at a company for 2 years, but you just never worked in this area. And then you need to reach out to someone, and you just never built a relationship with them. So that's why it's really good to just reach out, build team, with those relationships. Doesn't matter if it's not your product. It's good to have that collaboration together, not just with development, just with other designers, product. Another one that's not on here is have a relationship with your marketing team. I think the CEO of Airbnb said it best. If your product is launched and no one knows about it, doesn't really matter. You need to make sure that your marketing team actually understands the product. What if they don't understand how to promote it? So you want to work with not just your product team, your marketing team, so they can understand, like, oh, okay, this is how I can sell it, or this is how I can actually push this feature. And that brings in revenue, and that is the number one goal. I know a lot of people's like, oh, I want to make a difference, but money talks. And enterprises respond to numbers. So when it comes to collaboration, those are like the most essential things you need to do. Does that answer your question? I forgot your name, I'm so sorry.
Might have been Sabian, maybe. Yeah, because you said that you would go into it next. So I think that was Sabian's question. Let us know,
Okay.
Sabian, in chat or unmute. If
You were
that
answering my question?
Yeah, I was seeing if I answered your question.
I don't know. I had a second question while you were speaking, so maybe.
Okay, well, take your
Okay.
time. Feel free to drop it in the chat.
Yep. If not, I'll make sure I'll circle back at the end.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. So yeah, yes, make sure collaborate. It is essential and it will make the biggest impact. So let's talk about some product and feature launches in Enterprise UX. What is your role as a designer when it's time to launch? You need to stay in sync with your development team. And the reason why I say that is there are certain steps where once they reach to a certain point in the development, there cannot be any more changes until after the release. So if you see something and you're like, this is not how I designed it, why is it like this? You need to align with development right away, see where they're at, and address it. Because once it's at a certain stage, especially when you get in regression and hardening, can't really do anything at that point. And you just have to wait until after possible, depending on what your company does. And they have certain release dates like, oh, can we maybe push this out? So you need to really, really stay in sync. From the start of the project to the very end, when you're just maintaining the life cycle of that product or feature, you have to really make sure that you are in sync with that development team. I know this might sound silly, but I know so many designers. I have designer friends. It's like, oh, I forgot about the release date. Oh, it was supposed to happen. Know your release date. It's really important. Please know your release date. Knowing that, again, kind of loops into being in sync with your development team, that if anything is wrong, like, oh, we can't allow this to go out looking like this, or this needs to change. That's why it's really important that you continue to be with development and product from the very beginning to the time it's going to be launched and released. Now, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but you want to make sure sales and marketing understand the product that is going to be released. Again, if they don't understand it, how would they market it? They're not going to market, no one's going to buy it. And again, you just spent months, if not a year or two, on something, and it won't matter because no one knows about it. And that's why I really try to dig in myself to make sure that I understand that the marketing team understands it. And this is not them telling them what to do. It's just asking them like, hey, do you guys have any questions about the feature? You can work with your product manager on this and they can reach out to marketing. But it's really essential that they understand how to sell it and how to produce a great strategy to bring in either more clients, more new users. So that is kind of your role when it comes to feature launches and product. Is it a little bit more to it? I think it just depends on your company. That's where it gets a little different. But when you're focusing on these three things, just staying in sync with development, product, throughout the building process, because you'd be surprised, it's not so easy to change a button. It's not so easy to change the spelling all the time. It's little things that we think, oh, we can just go into whatever tool we're designing in and change it. Development's like, oh no, it's not that easy. So it's really important to do that. Now, I want to talk about some future trends I've been seeing in case anyone wants to focus or get into Enterprise UX. Some voice interfaces, I've been noticing some trends with that, where a lot of enterprises is starting to integrate that into their products. Machine learning, AI, ChatGPT blew up the world. So now it is a very hot trend. I don't know how far this trend is going to go, but I do know it's pretty much here to stay. Machine learning has been around forever. If you think about Amazon Siri, again, when I was talking about Microsoft Clippy, that's all machine learning AI. So they're starting to integrate it a little bit more. My own company has a big AI product, Lexus Plus AI. It's promoted nonstop on LinkedIn. I see it all the time. So that is definitely, I've seen a lot of companies starting to integrate that. So if you're looking to get in enterprise UX, I would study that. I would learn a little bit more because I've been seeing more positions be very specific to AI and machine learning. And immersed interfaces. So VR and AR actually was a pretty big trend, I think about a year or two ago. And then it kind of died down. I'm starting to see that pick back up again. So I think that's going to be more integrated into the future as a possible tool to use and enterprise UX. And that is it. Thank you so much. And feel free to connect with me. I do share matcha recipes as promised.
So yes, Robin, we do have few questions. Can I
Mhm.
go ahead? Okay.
Sure.
So Ashley wants to ask that would there be a room for specialist or it is of journalist?
Oh, I'm sorry. My audio cut out for 2 seconds.
Oh,
Could
no
you repeat
problem.
that?
So Ashley has a question for you. Would there be a room for specialist or is it full of journalist?
Generalist and design. I think it depends on what the direction that the enterprise is going in. I think it could be for both. As I just talked about with AI, they are definitely starting to build tools and features around artificial intelligence. So if you are a specialist that know how to design just for machine learning AI, you can definitely get into the enterprise. Generalists, it also depends on what your company is looking for. Sometimes titles can be interchangeable. Some people say product design, and sometimes just UX or visual design. So I think it's room for everyone. I always say the more the merrier, but I don't set the budget.
Yeah. Feel free to unmute yourself, Ashley, if you got few questions related to this. I can go ahead with the other questions by the time. So Stephanie asked, you have a design to the stakeholder who is responsible for purchasing and for the end user.
So who responsible is our clients.
Purchasing, yeah, is the question. You have a design to the stakeholder who is responsible for purchasing and for the end user. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I have to design for both. So
Uh,
basically, if the stakeholder doesn't like it, they're not going to purchase it. And I also have to think about the end user as well. I used the example earlier about how I know everyone here has had a job. So we all have clocked in and out using different software. So I have to, if I was designing, I had to think about how can this be sold and how can this be used at the same time. So it's complexity when it's come to enterprise UX. You have to think about so many different aspects and I would say personas as well.
Yeah, okay. Hope Stephanie, your answer is covered. Moving ahead, we have Ashley asking, what is your journey? What in your journey lead to enterprise UX? Um, yeah. What are your best? Oh, wait, there are a lot of questions. Okay, I'm sorry. So the
It's
first
okay.
question was, what is your journey led to you to enterprise UX?
How did
What
well,
in your
enter-
journey, yeah, led into an
I,
entrepreneur? Yeah.
I would just say that enterprise UX found me. I was just minding my business. Enterprise decided to bother me. um, and I wouldn't say, how do I get in? I always just try to be myself when I'm like trying to get into certain areas. I'm glad I'm here though. I do enjoy being here at the enterprise level, and you learn a lot. There's a lot to this. And I think I didn't mention this, but one thing you should have or some kind of skill set is in business. You need to have those business skills added on. But yeah, enterprise UX found me. I didn't try to find it.
Yes. We have a lot of questions from Ashley, and I love this. So she asked, what are your best practices for making sure to have a good communication and collaboration across the teams?
Okay, my best practices is I just need to get to know who that person is. It's effective to understand how they communicate. Some people don't like chatting. Some people prefer emails. And I always I make a little Google Doc for myself to understand how that person likes to communicate and I try my best to be as effective as possible when just trying to keep that collaboration going. Again, I approach everything with more of a relationship. I want to build that relationship. So my best practice is always leaning on how can I effectively maintain a relationship and how can I effectively build? So I continue to reference like little things like when someone mentions that, oh, I like, I don't know, chocolate, I'm like, ooh, maybe I could start a conversation. It's almost in a way of networking within your own company, but I enjoy it. I enjoy talking to people and again, keeping that effective communication open no matter what, it's probably the best feeling because you know you're making that good impact.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's interesting to know. Yeah, yeah.
Not for nothing.
I'll,
Please
oh,
allow me to just quickly interrupt. I think this is a good like midpoint segue here. With 15 minutes left and talking about trying to connect with people to understand the desires and how to best move forward. IterateUX also has just a couple of questions for everyone that decided to join us today. They're a quick 5 questions. It'll take maybe a minute or two. I'm going to launch it now. If everyone could just
Stop
quickly
sharing.
answer a few questions, that would be super helpful. It should be showing up in about 2 seconds or so.
yeah, it is.
My answer's not on here.
Oh, actually, if your answer's not on here, feel very free to verbalize. We're very interested in how we can make these events better, more informative, and more fun for everyone who decides to join.
YouTube videos, do they count as podcasts or online courses then?
Last question is not fair because I have 2 answers.
Oh, for number 5?
Mm,
Cool. Well, let me see.
Multiple choice.
yeah, because like if I can't attend a live session, then I
Hmm.
normally go on the YouTube and watch after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, not for nothing. I'm taking a note. Thank you for the verbalization.
Mhm.
Yeah, some of them are multiple choice and some of them are single choice.
Cool. I think that is just about everyone. So I think anyone who is still answering questions, feel super free to finish up. Robin and Deepa, we can continue with questions. Thank you for answering our little IterateUX poll.
Yes, thank you so much. So moving ahead, the other question is, what advice would you give to someone trying to get seen by recruiter or enterprise UX companies?
Yourself. I think studying enterprise UX as in understanding how it works and using kind of those buzzwords when you're working with a recruiter or trying to get the attention of a recruiter. When I was getting this role, I took the time to really make sure I understood the legal aspect of things. You need to understand whatever company you're trying to go for, whether it's a small, mid-size, or a enterprise. How can you effectively make sure that you are catching the attention of that recruiter or hiring manager? And don't disregard your soft skills. Your soft skills will get you a lot further than your technical skills. Companies can teach you a lot. They can teach you a lot of technical skills, but they cannot teach you soft skills. And if you're a person that's kind of off-putting, no one's going to want to work with you. So I think a lot of designers shy away from showing their personality because they think it will be off-putting, when no, they want to know. They want to get to know you.
Yeah. Guys,
So that's
be
my
you.
advice.
Yeah, be you. Yes. Moving on, we have last question from Ashley. If you would get a role in the company, are many of this company under NDA? And can you discuss the project features you worked on?
Okay, so NDAs is a designer's best friend because we sign probably more than 100 within our entire career, if not thousands. It depends on what that company's policy is. You do not want to get sued because they do have the resources to sue you. I just check with their policy. If you have to, white label. I actually enjoy white labeling, and make sure it's under password. My portfolio is password protected because I do have some case studies from my company, but I make sure I'm careful. I adhere to their policy, and that's pretty much it. Just make sure you understand your company's policy. I know some designers kind of be like, they're not going to take the time, but I want to risk it. So I try to honor that.
Yes. Thank you so much for answering. And again, Ashley has few questions as well. We'll again connect with her. Moving on, Stephanie has question. Where do issues around budget come in?
Oh, that's above my pay grade. They really have little to no impact when it comes to budget. When it comes to capital and funding, I basically am given what I'm told. This is what's funded, and this is what I have to deal with, and this is what I have to design or work on. I wish I could have more say because I would love to invest 100 million into my product, but I don't have that kind of money and I have no say. So that's more, you probably have more sway in the more smaller company, but enterprise, you really don't, unless you're at a certain point where you're in a C-suite or VP or I guess sometimes managers. It just depends on the level of responsibility. But as you get more up in the chain at VP level, that is more of where you can have some impact on budget, possibly.
Okay, so it might be like a clear constraint that you need to work within that.
Oh yeah, you definitely are going to have to. Enterprise UX is all about constraints. If you're not comfortable working in constraints, enterprise UX is not for you. And that is me just trying to be transparent. If you cannot work in those conditions, I would not recommend coming into an enterprise. It's not fun when you want to push certain things because you're going to get instant pushback. Again, we love to be creative, but I always try to tell more early designers that this is really not a creative role, it's a business role. I wish I could say the opposite.
Yeah, I think if I could just clarify my background a little, I'm in an ad agency, so I have to bill every 15 minutes to a specific job number. So for my life, there's specific budgets that'll be down to like, you get 8 hours to do this task. So I'm super curious, like on the other side, like for maybe it's you get 6 weeks. Is that like a little bit more of like, and you're maybe more focused?
Yeah, so the timeline is given to probably my PMs, and usually we have like months, if not years. It's not like short. That's very, again, more startup. I I would not want to do the features because usually the features are multi-million dollars. They in enterprises, they're not cheap little features. They are very expensive. So uh, every 15 minutes, I'm so sorry.
I know. It's so bad.
Yeah, but no, yeah, sometimes a few months, if not a year. It just depends on how complex and what the project is. It's an integration, it's just an update to a feature, it's a new feature. Is it a whole new product? It really does depend. But it's never maybe oh no, 6 weeks of startup. I have a startup background. That's very startup vibes.
Just
Yeah.
watching for time, since we have 5 minutes. Deepa, can we ask the first question for every person that asked a question, just to make sure that we get.
Yeah. We have like 4 to 5 questions. I'll get it covered. So, how would you handle where you hired by one person team, but the decision maker who approves the changes is a different person who is afraid of changing anything, but the stakeholder who hired you want changes? Savian, if I ask the question correctly, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Yeah, if I made any mistake. Yeah.
You're all good.
Yeah, good.
Okay. So basically you are asking if the product, okay, I want to make sure. Can you repeat the question to make sure I understand it?
Okay.
Basically, the stakeholder who hired you to do the job
Yep.
versus the stakeholder you need approval from to make changes are disagreeing.
Well, that's between them and God at that point. No, I'm just kidding. So that's where communication comes in. There are always disagreements when it comes to different stakeholders. Sometimes you get pushed back, and it's all about coming to compromise. Compromise is another thing. You have to be good at it, and you have to enjoy it. I When it comes to those type of problems, it's common and it's also rare because if you keep the communication open, you won't have those bumps. But at the same time, it's so common because sometimes people are not on the same page or they think, oh, let's do it this way. Just tell her to design it, regardless. It's just bad UX. And at the end, you have to just advocate as much as you can. Um, Especially if it's the person that hired you that's on your side and the person that didn't is just like in charge of the product. It's like, oh, I'd rather do it this way. Do the best you can and continue that communication because sometimes you lose the fight. I can only fight for so much and go from there.
Nice. Thanks.
Yes, thank you for asking. So next question is Tonya asked, curious if your department team already had a relationship with marketing established, or did you have to do personal work to make that happen once you took on the role?
Okay, so our team always, I think, had let me rephrase this. Our team already had an established relationship. It was more of me trying to establish relationship with others across different teams, whether it's in marketing, whether it's sales or PM or development. I wanted to make sure that I established that kind of relationship. So enterprises is usually some kind of relationship going on, but it's up to you as an individual to designer to make sure that you continue to build those relationships and to understand and make those connections, and they're valuable connections.
Yeah, understood. So we have this next question. I think it will be everyone's favorite. So, will you please give some tips on how to get a dream job as a product designer or UI UX designer?
Okay, so my number one tip is networking. We're in a market that's brutal, and it's really about who you know, not what you know anymore. It doesn't mean that you can just get a job and not know anything about product design. So networking, build those relationships. It's really important to start building a network prior to job hunting because you never know when you might need to lean on your network. I love having coffee chats. It's probably one of my favorite things in the world. I love making those connections. My second tip is to make sure your portfolio is good. You need to make sure it's clear and concise. It's not so much of the bells and whistles. They'd want to know how you think. And it's not so much of a linear process because design is anything but linear. Sometimes you have to design, it can be complex, and sometimes you go backwards or forward, it depends. So you just want to make sure you're telling that good story in your portfolio. And it's just showing your soft skills. Don't be afraid to talk about something silly. I talk about matcha all the time. Every interview, every person that interviewed me remembered that I like matcha. So don't be afraid to establish that or talk about it. It's okay. It doesn't make you wrong. It's all about, again, that balance of being able to show that you can do the job and also showcasing your soft skills. So those are some of the tips I have for you. If you need more, feel free to reach out. But good luck on your journey. I know the market's brutal. It's horrible right now.
Yes.
No one's safe. So, but I wish you all the best that's in the job hunt.
Yeah. I have like few questions. Alicia, should I go ahead with or?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So there is this question. Lionel asks. I'm sorry if I pronounce it incorrectly. Feel free to unmute yourself. So the question is, how was your journey understanding the product?
Oh, I still don't understand it. The product I work on is so complex. My PM will say it's a beast, and sometimes it does so many different things. And I'm very familiar with one area. I'm going to say at least 2 to 3 areas, but really getting to know the other areas is still a journey. When I first started, they said you will use your first 6 months just getting used to the product, then you use the next year or 2 to finally understand it. Don't be afraid to, if you ever get into a product that is super complex, don't be afraid to reach out to your product team, to other designers that have that historical knowledge that you will need to utilize it. So yeah, I lean on a lot of people. I am not afraid to ask questions. I'll be like, I don't understand this. Can you help me? I'm so sorry. I tried. That's like my favorite I like to think about. But yeah, I'm still learning. I wish I could say, oh, I'm an expert at it. I think people who have been there for 10 years probably couldn't even say that. That's how complex the product is.
Yeah, I feel the industry is like you have to be a lifelong learner. Yeah.
You're supposed to be
Right?
a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
It definitely is not something you will learn everything in one day.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have this last question from Alicia itself. If you were restarting your UX career now, what would you do to get into, enterprise design?
Probably nothing too different. I took the time to self-teach. Then I did a boot camp. Then I continued my journey of learning. And I knew how to continue to build relationships, and I networked, and I continue to learn. I just wrapped up Harvard Business School online. I did that for a few weeks, and that has given me new tools in my tool belt. That's what I wouldn't do too much different. I think my journey has been so sufficient in learning and me actually being at the point that I am. I'm very grateful. I literally sign onto my computer every morning, Monday through Friday, like, oh wait, I can still log in. Yay, they want to keep me.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do too much different, but I think building relationships, continue learning. Don't think you know everything, and don't focus on Figma. I think that's probably a mistake a lot of designers do. They focus on a tool where tools can be interchanged. You need to focus on the actual UX principles and understand them.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if anyone have few more questions, feel free to exchange contact information with Robin. So I'll be dropping her LinkedIn profile here.
Yeah, so
So
speaking of
yes.
Robin, if people want to follow you and get to know you more after this, how should they do so?
Oh, just connect with me on LinkedIn. I usually just add almost everyone. If I do not add you, it's not anything personal. I just probably haven't gotten down to the list because I get a lot of requests. But feel free to reach out. It is holiday, so I'm going to be a little bit slower to respond right now. But trust me, in the new year, I'll be really back on it, and I probably will be opening myself up to more coffee chats. So if you do follow me, feel free to look out for that post new year. But yeah, of course, please connect with me. I love talking to people and getting to know.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your time and your knowledge. That was really great, and definitely puts people in a different perspective, because I think a lot of design talks now are talking more like small startups or like initial companies. So getting the viewpoint from an enterprise is super helpful too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. I enjoyed it. And if anyone have any enterprise UX questions, feel free to reach out.
Cool.
Yes. So I have again posted LinkedIn. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you everyone for coming. Feel free to check us out on YouTube and Discord and LinkedIn for more awesome events like this one. And we will see you next time.
Yes.
Thanks
All
for
right,
holding
Thank
the
you,
event.
everyone.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
See you in the next one, maybe.
Okay, I just stopped the recording.